Once upon a time, in a quiet and peaceful kingdom, surrounded by rolling green hills and the soft whisper of forests, there lived a man and a woman who were kind at heart and deeply in love. Their small cottage stood near the edge of the woods, where wildflowers grew freely and the sound of birds filled the air each morning. They had a simple but happy life, sharing everything they had and caring for each other with warmth and patience. There was only one thing their hearts longed for: a child. For many years, their house remained quiet, and their hearts felt a little emptier each passing season. Still, they never lost hope. They believed that someday their wish would be answered. Behind their cottage stood a tall stone wall. Beyond that wall was a magnificent garden unlike any other. Every color of flower bloomed there: soft pink roses, bright golden marigolds, and delicate bluebells that danced when the wind passed through. Among the flowers grew the freshest herbs and vegetables, their scent filling the air with sweetness. The garden was beautiful, but it belonged to a mysterious woman who lived in a grand, lonely house beyond the forest. People in the village whispered that she was a sorceress, wise and powerful, but also feared. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low and golden light filled the sky, the woman stood by her window and gazed towards the garden. Her eyes fell upon a patch of green plants growing near the wall, tall, graceful leaves that glistened in the light. For reasons she could not explain, she suddenly longed for them more than anything. The sight of them filled her mind, and soon she could think of nothing else. Her husband, seeing her grow pale and weak, was filled with worry. Though he was a good man who followed every rule, love for his wife was stronger than fear. Late one night, when the world was quiet and silver moonlight covered the garden, he climbed over the wall. The air was cool, and the scent of flowers surrounded him. He carefully picked a handful of the green leaves and hurried home. His wife's eyes lit up when she saw them. She tasted the leaves and felt instantly refreshed, as if the life of the earth had entered her. But soon, her desire returned, stronger than before. The husband, though frightened, climbed over the wall again the next night. That was when everything changed. Hidden among the vines, the sorceress saw him. Her presence was silent but powerful, like the shadow of a storm. Though his heart filled with fear, he tried to explain himself, but his words trembled in the night air. The sorceress, seeing both his fear and love, did not destroy him. Instead, she made a promise that bound his soul in sorrow. In return for the plants he had stolen, she would take the child that his wife carried. A life for a life. Time passed, and when the child was born, she was more beautiful than sunlight through morning mist. Her golden hair shimmered like woven rays of light. The moment the sorceress appeared to claim her, the air seemed to grow still. The couple wept silently as she carried the baby away, never to return. The sorceress named the child Rapunzel, after the green plant that had started it all. Far away, deep within the forest, stood a tall stone tower. It had no door and no staircase, only a single window high above the trees. It was there that the sorceress raised Rapunzel. The tower was quiet except for the songs of birds and the rustle of the wind. The child grew with a gentle heart and a voice that sounded like music when she sang. Each day, sunlight poured through the window and touched her hair, turning it to rivers of gold. As she grew older, her hair grew longer until it flowed across the floor like silk. The sorceress brought her food and books, and though Rapunzel had everything she needed, she often gazed out at the forest, watching the birds fly freely and wondering what the world beyond the trees was like. Years passed quietly. Seasons changed. Spring flowers, summer rains, autumn leaves, winter snow. And Rapunzel watched them all from her high window. Her only companion was the sky, and sometimes she would hum to herself, her songs floating like silver threads through the forest below. One day, a prince rode through that forest. He was searching for peace and beauty away from his busy life in the kingdom. As he passed near the tower, he heard a sound so pure and soft that he stopped his horse to listen. It was a voice, singing high above him, filling the air like sunlight after rain. He followed the sound and soon found the tower, hidden among the trees. There was no door, no path, only the voice drifting down like a dream. He stood there for a long time, listening. Each day he returned, drawn by the song. Then one evening, hidden among the trees, he saw something strange. A woman cloaked in dark fabric approached the tower. When she reached the base, she called out a few words, and in response, something golden fell from the window. A long braid of shining hair that reached all the way to the ground. The woman climbed it gracefully, disappearing into the window above. The prince understood. The next day, when the forest was quiet again, he returned to the tower. He called in the same way, and the golden braid fell once more. He climbed, his heart racing with wonder and hope. At the top, he found Rapunzel. Her eyes were bright and kind, and though she was startled at first, the gentleness in his face made her feel safe. From that day on, he returned often. They shared stories, laughter, and quiet moments of peace. The days grew brighter, but shadows always wait. One afternoon, the sorceress discovered that Rapunzel's world had changed. When she realized the truth, anger filled her heart like fire. She cut Rapunzel's beautiful hair and sent her far away into the wild woods, where she would be alone once more. That night, when the prince came to the tower, the golden braid was already waiting. He climbed with joy in his heart. But at the top, he found not the gentle girl he loved, but the sorceress, her eyes cold as stone. When she told him Rapunzel was gone forever, despair took him. He stumbled and fell from the tower into the thorns below. Though his life was spared, his eyes were blinded. For many long months, he wandered through forests and valleys, guided only by the memory of her voice. Meanwhile, Rapunzel lived quietly in a small shelter she built in a hidden valley beside a clear stream. Birds kept her company, and she sang to ease her loneliness. The sound of her song drifted far beyond the hills, carried by the wind, until one day it reached the prince. Weary and blind, he followed the song through the forest, step by slow step, until he reached the valley. There, beside the stream, stood Rapunzel. When she saw him, tears filled her eyes. She ran to him and held him close. As she wept, her tears fell upon his face, and his sight returned. When he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was the one he had never stopped loving. The forest around them glowed with light. Together they left the valley and returned to his kingdom, where they built a new life, one filled with kindness, laughter, and peace. Rapunzel's songs filled the halls, and her hair, though shorter now, still shone like gold in the sunlight. And so, Rapunzel lived freely under the open sky, surrounded by love, the sound of life, and the endless beauty she had once only dreamed of. Every sunset that touched her golden hair reminded the world that even when darkness seems endless, light will always return. And from that day on, songs of hope drifted through the forest, soft, golden, and everlasting. The end.